doing shows for oh so long. Every summer in your favorite bar, we're determined to keep going strong. Nothing in the world can stop our song.
So whether you have season tickets or saw a show with friends,
We have the info and the scoop on all the latest trends.
gather around.
We won't be a bore. We promise to have you coming back for more. In the meantime, we'll say what we mean.
Welcome back to In the Meantime with John Saunders. I'm John Saunders, and this is In the Meantime. And you guessed it, I still have no idea what I'm doing. For this week's episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with not only a colleague, but a dear friend. This week's guest is the wildly talented Bryan Knowlton, who has been a member of the Mac-Haydn family for over 10 years as a director and a choreographer. Don't forget, if you mention Bryan's name when you donate to the Bright Future Fund, half of those donations will go directly to Bryan. Bryan has chosen an incredible destination for his donations this week, the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. Their mission is to defend and protect the human rights of Black transgender people. What a perfect choice at a perfect time, Bryan. Don't forget, if you can, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and a big thanks to all of you who pressed the button last week. Strong work. Okay, away we go. Enjoy this episode of In the Meantime with Bryan Knowlton.
Bryan Knowlton. Bryan, let's start with some basics. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Okay.
But I was raised in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, about an hour, 20 minutes north of Boston.
Okay, on the seacoast.
On the seacoast, yeah.
Yeah. So you grew up there, and then when and where did you kind of get the bug to perform? How did that evolve?
Well, I mean, since as a little kid, I always was running around, putting on shows, like my brother and I had bunk beds, and I would like take the sheet and like make a curtain out of it, and I'd like pop out from the curtain. But I would make all of my family watch all the plays I did as a little kid and stuff. But I really started getting into it from around the age of probably 11 or so, when I joined some acting classes in some children's theater at Seacoast Repertory Theater, which was located in my hometown. My first children's show was Hansel and Gretel. I was a tree and understudied Hansel. And then
Love that.
I think it was that summer or maybe the next summer, I joined their apprentice program, running lights, doing laundry for the main stage shows and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I sort of started getting an education in the theater, and then I was like, oh my God, this is definitely what I want to do for sure.
So you performed, and then I know you went to UArts in Philly, and then I know that then you made the big move to New York City. So when was that first big move to the city?
2001, because I signed my lease on September 11th.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, and the first place I had was in Woodside, Queens.
Queens.
Yeah, it was right next to I think it was 60th Street stop off the 7.
Queens. That's I
will kill you, Dad.
That's the one to the right, right?
That's the one to the right.
Okay, so you were in the city, you were auditioning. What was your first kind of break in the city? What was your first big gig?
I got a gig at, do you remember, you're from Jersey, Hunterton Hills Playhouse? This kid, I guess, twisted his ankle or something, and they needed a replacement right away. So I auditioned, got the job, and went
What was the
right
show?
away. Oh, it was some Christmas spectacular, I sang Silent Night. I was a reindeer. I tap dance. It was
Cool.
cute.
I feel like I remember that, because didn't they kind of pay pretty well?
They paid incredible.
Yeah.
I think I got paid more on that job than I did on some of my other bigger jobs.
Right. Your Broadway job.
As an equity actor.
Right.
But it was a great gig. I had a great time. It was
Cool.
awesome.
So that was your first out-of-towner.
Mm-hmm. It was
Great.
awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
And then after Hunterton, then were there other gigs? What happened next?
Yeah. Then I was auditioning quite a bit and got, what was it? I think I got Music Man, and I was going to understudy Tommy Gillis and be dance captain.
Okay.
But then I got Oliver.
Ah.
So I didn't take it. And then I did, right before Oliver, I did a chorus line at Sharon Playhouse out in Sharon, Connecticut.
Oh, okay, cool. Now Oliver, of
Yeah.
course, was the national tour.
Yeah, with
And
you.
with me, yeah. And that was long. It was a long gig.
It was really long.
Yeah.
But it went by very quick, though. Don't you
did.
feel like that?
It definitely did.
Yeah.
It went really fast. I mean, we were on both legs of it. And I remember, like, from year 1 to year 2, so many of us came back.
Yeah,
To the show.
there was only like 3 people that left. Right?
Yeah, I remember we didn't even have to rehearse. Remember in New York, we like had no rehearsal time. They were like, "Come to Memphis, and we'll get this thing going again." But I think that's because it was such a good tour. I mean, it was such a nice surprise and so much fun. You know,
It was such an amazing group of people too.
It was.
And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I think it's because the kids like kept us really like together. I feel like, because they were all really close.
They were
too.
Yeah.
So like it sort of forced us to be like a family, you know?
One thing I think that many people out there watching won't know, that you and I were roommates for 2 years.
For 2 whole years.
And we shared a single hotel room for 2 years. And we never had a fight.
Never.
That's so not
Ever.
true. We had little tips.
We had little tips.
Yeah.
But we were both neat freaks. We still
were.
are.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And we were both on really good opposite schedules. We had our
Yes.
we had our groove down to a science. But it really was such an amazing time. I still look back at that tour as kind of maybe possibly my favorite job ever. You know,
Yeah,
it was
ditto.
it was
Hands
just
down.
so fun and such a good show. We did Oliver. It was unbelievable. And then we came back and we both, I think, just went right back to auditioning. What about you? Your break came pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, I came back and then I did Carousel Dinner Theater, which no longer exists. I was a chorus line baby, so I did that there. I did a couple of like random, you know, like random jobs, like one-nighter type thing, you know, like what's it called, like cabarets and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. And then when we were on Oliver, that's when they announced a chorus line was coming back, the revival. And so I was like, well, I've done the show a bunch of times. I'm going to book this job. But that first round, I didn't book it. You know, I rated it pretty close, like a couple of auditions right before they all went to the theater that you can watch in that documentary. But I didn't get it. So, and then I sort of just was like, oh, whatever. And then I just started auditioning more and more. And then in 2000, what was that, 7? That May, I guess, I was auditioning again. I went to an open girls call and was non-equity. And Jay Binder was like, oh, you look familiar. Haven't we seen you before? And I was like, yeah, like 1,000 times.
Right.
And then I just kept getting called back. I think I had 3 callbacks or something like that. I had my last audition and at the theater, my last callback. And it was pretty special. It was just me, Bob Avian, Byork, and Jay Binder, and his assistant, Nicole Valens, I think it was her name. And it went really well. And I remember walking outside of the theater and just being like, okay, whatever happens. And then I throw it up. And I remember you and I went out for drinks and you were like, Bryan, let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it go. And I was like, okay. And so you spent the night at my house. And then I went back to, I took the train uptown with you to Deb Bowman's house. And I got the phone call while I was at Deb Bowman's house. And then as soon as I got the phone call, I went back over to your place right after.
I remember. It was
we sat in your kitchen and we're like screaming.
It was the craziest day. I'll never forget it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I like to say that that's when I got my Broadway show.
Yep.
It was so exciting because it was a real, I remember the audition process was a lot. You were nervous, you know. Yeah.
It was so intense. And, you know, I was so young well, not so young, but I was young at the time. So that first round, I just don't think I was ready for it yet, you know. I think that the amount of things that you taught me, the amount of things that I learned on tour with Oliver was great, and it was super helpful, but I just wasn't ready yet. And then by the time that I went back for that second round, once they did the replacement call, I was ready, you know, and by the help of my friends, my family, I just let it go. You know?
Yeah, and you had spent that year working. I remember you were doing a lot of stuff. You were all over the place. Yeah, those days, those freelancing days were wild.
Yeah, I did that random like tango show at Ohio State University. Remember, I went like left for like a month and a half or something.
Yeah, I'm also remembering, didn't you do some crazy birthday party where like
with
Bette Midler was there and
Christina Aguilera and Robin Williams.
Right, and you guys did like a chorus line for a birthday party. I was so lucky to be at your debut. And I was thinking about that before this interview about your debut. And I remember, I think it was my sister Helen. She was like, oh my God, like the next day, she's like, how was he? I was like, I have no idea. I cried the whole time. I didn't pay attention. I couldn't hear anything. I don't know what, but I think he was good. And then of course, I must have seen you in the show.
You came along.
What does he want from me? What should I try to be? So many faces all around, and here we go. I need this job. Oh God, I need this job.
What's it like being all alone on that Broadway stage for close to 10 minutes?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
And you and I have spoken about this before, and I've tried to, over the years, sort of figure out what it was that was so terrifying. You know, I've said this before, you know, dancing is no big deal. I could do that for days, and I could do it by myself on stage, you know, and not really care. But I think, you know, us as actors, when I used to perform, it's very important to stay present. You know, you give that audience the best absolute work possible that you can provide for them, you know, to bring them into your world. And the maintenance in having to do that is very difficult. And I think speaking by yourself and just the spotlight on you and not being able to have an act like a scene partner was really hard too. And so the light would just hit me, and it was like I couldn't see anything. I couldn't interact with anyone. It was just me. Sort of, it felt like I was naked. You know what I mean? In front of a bunch of people I didn't know. You know. Yeah. Which is the point of the monologue, but
yes, definitely. But like, you know, as actors, you know, we struggle even with a 1 minute monologue in an audition room. But to have to you know, sustain, you know, it was close to 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, I think it was about like.
I heard her say, "Oh my God." Well, I died. But what could I do? I had to go for the finale, so I just kept going. After the show, I went back to my dressing room, and after I finished dressing and taking my makeup off, I went back downstairs. And there they were, standing in the middle of all of these. And all they could say to me was, "Please write. Make sure you eat. Take care of yourself." And just before my parents left, my father turned to the producer and he said, "Take care of my son."
Amazing to watch. And I remember even through the whole process, you were never, ever, ever, ever even remotely complacent about any of it. You were always concerned about your singing, your dancing. I mean, it was, as you said, the maintenance. You were always right until the end, you know, and you closed the show.
I did close the show, yeah.
You did. Cool. Yeah. And then let's talk about life after Chorus Line. which is also the name of my book. And it's all about you.
I'm writing the forward.
You are writing the forward.
I did a Chorus Line national tour, the first national.
Right.
The gentleman playing Paul at the time got appendicitis randomly. And I was in my final callbacks for Mary Poppins, actually.
Oh.
And my agent, before I went in, called me and said, do not go in there, into the room. And I was like, why? And he's like, you're going out on the road and you leave in like 7 hours to go to Cleveland. So I went back up to my apartment, packed up all my stuff because I was going to be gone for about a month and a half. And I flew out to Cleveland, watched the show that night, and was in the show the next day. And then I did that for like a month and a half, came back, and then went back out on the road again to replace him on the tour. And then after that, I stopped doing Chorus Line for a little while.
I remember that when you were like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
It was but you had done how many productions of it aside from the Broadway? You've been in like seven productions of it.
I've done like about 13 companies of it total.
Wow.
That's like both like being in it and both directing and choreographing it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
A lot of Chorus
Amazing. And then, so I remember you coming back from after a Chorus Line, and I think that's when we started to segue into choreography, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So when did you take that leap?
Well, I had done a couple shows at Seco Strap when I was younger, right before I left for college.
Okay.
And like I've always choreographed in my room and stuff, but I never really was dedicated to it until you gave me the opportunity to do Chicago at Mac-Haydn. That's when I was like, oh, I can do this.
Was that your first
this could be cool.
Big choreo job?
That was my first choreo job outside of Seco Strap. Yeah.
You segued into directing. How was that very scary for you, or had you also directed before?
I had not. And, you know, I was the first like directing job I had actually was when I was a kid doing like children's theater. But then my first directing job, Lynn and you gave me Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Smokey Joe's, that's right.
Yeah, that was my first directorial debut. And I loved it. I was, you know, luckily I had you as a teacher and Clayton Phillips, who I worked with a lot. So I sort of knew where to go and how to do stuff. But, you know, it was good to get my feet wet with that show in particular because it was more of a review and not like a storyline through line. But yeah, that's when it started.
Well, let's get into the Mac-Haydn. So did you arrive to choreograph, or had you seen something there?
I had seen Hairspray with you.
Oh my God.
In it.
How was I?
You were amazing.
As a viewer, like what was your first impression of the Mac-Haydn?
When you walk into the theater, you know, it looks like a barn, you know, and it's really interesting because it has all those incredible beams up above.
Yeah.
And then over the years, you know, with all the lighting equipment that's been thrown up there, it just looks incredible. But it looks, you know, it looks very welcoming. And then those lights go down and your world completely changes. You know, the audience, it's so crazy to me. The audience goes away. Yeah. Completely. And all you're doing is focusing in on, you know, what everybody calls the postage stamp. You know, it's pretty amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah, I noticed you rolled your eyes when you said postage stamp, and you would back me up. Remember how much Lynn used to hate that?
Yep.
She used to stop telling me my stage is small.
Do you know how many things we've done on that postage stamp?
I know. We've had 30 people on that postage stamp. So let's go through your career at the Mac. So first show was Chicago.
Then Smokey Joe's. Oliver was next.
Grease was before that. Oliver.
Grease. Yeah.
Yeah.
9 to 5. My Fair Lady.
One of my favorites with you. So fun.
Then The Crazy Summer. That was Beggar's Wife, Rent, and Hairspray. Yeah. All three back to back.
Yeah, that was rough. I remember Lynn saying, what about that show with all the kids who can't pay their rent? And I was like, you mean rent? She's like, that's it. You know, she's like, you want to do that one? And I remember like backing out of the room being like, yes.
Yes.
I remember like literally ready to turn and run and go get the license for it. And I came back like an hour later. I'm like, we got rent.
We got it.
You know, there's no turning back.
You know the moment it was 525,000? That moment was spectacular. And I remember you and I just sitting in section, I think it was section 4. We both were just like,
You directed Lacage.
Lacage is with you and Gabe's.
Yep.
Gabe Bellew.
You and Gabe, who go back all the way to the Oliver tour. Gabe and I met here, but you, me, and Gabe have been, I mean, pals for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And you went back and lived with Gabe for a long time.
Yeah. Gabe and I were roommates for with Carrie Sima for 5 years.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years, something like that.
Yeah. Was Joseph next?
Yes, Joseph was next.
Joseph.
Then I did Mamma Mia and Damn Yankees.
Oh my
Was that
God.
the same summer?
No, it was like the next summer.
How
can I forget Mamma Mia? And Damn Yankees, obviously, we had a ball.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
And then, of course, you couldn't come the next summer, which was
last summer,
which was weird because you'd been here for, I think, a lot of
12 years.
A lot of people don't realize how long you've been coming back to the theater. 12 years.
And now, a word from our president. Paul Colarusso, our board president, who is currently quarantining in New York City, is here to answer our weekly burning question. Paul, as the quarantine continues, we'd like to know what has been the most important tool for your survival during this COVID crisis.
Zoom!
Keep on zooming. Thank you, Paul.
So I know you also love Chatham. Mm-hmm. You love coming up here. Are there any spots in Chatham that you miss especially? Like where are some of the weirdo spots where you like to go?
I miss Stewart's ice cream.
Stewart's. That's right. You did.
It's embarrassing, but it's true. I love it. It's so
Stewart's
good.
ice cream. Listen, that's okay.
The raspberry ice cream is just everything.
The black raspberry. It's so good. So good. What do you think it is about the Mac that makes it somewhere that you and so many others love to come back to?
Well, besides the theater being extremely special, kind of the greatest aspect about the Mac-Haydn is that the community gets super involved via whether it's their volunteers or, people gardening or whatever it is, everybody's participating, you know what I mean, in the success of the theater and wanting it to thrive. That's, I think, what's pretty awesome about the collaboration between the product of the actual shows and then the community. Yeah. Probably feeling like they're almost participating in it.
Definitely.
I mean? It's pretty cool, Yeah. And, also too, not to be mushy, but Lynn, for me at least, that was, that's what made it really, really special because it was, her and Linda's baby, but they built it from the ground up, two women, being successful is pretty inspiring,
Yeah, and you had a lot of time to know Lynn, which was good.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about obviously your work in the region, because I know obviously you returned back to the Seacoast area, but then you have had a lot of success regionally at a couple of different theaters. Most importantly, Winnipesaukee Playhouse.
Yeah.
Now, where is Winnipesaukee? What's their story?
Winnipesaukee Playhouse is located in Meredith, New Hampshire, which is about 45 minutes north of Portsmouth, about like 2.5 hours north of Boston. it's a beautiful space, and sort of like Mac-Haydn, it's very, very interesting and very inviting. It's their entire lobby is sort of like this, like very woodsy, very New Hampshire, you know, lumber and stuff like that. But then once you enter the theater, it's all sort of more state of the art. The seats are super modern and stuff, and then the stage sort of comes out, and it's proscenium. Yet it's 3/4 because they have like a balcony that wraps around on the top, and you can watch the show from there. And they're like stools, like tall stools that you can sit, and then there are seats in front, and you can overlook the balcony and watch. It's kind of like that old timey sort of like feel to it. It's really cool.
2 big awards.
Yeah.
For you. Talk to us about those. What are those awards called?
The New Hampshire Theater Awards. It's takes place in January, usually, or the end of January. Takes place in Concord, which is in the capital of New Hampshire. And basically what they do is, it's really cool because it's not just like all the professional theater, it's all of the community theater and the youth. So it's a pretty awesome event. It's a wonderful event, actually. They're also providing an opportunity for new writers to come forward and showcase their work and stuff. They really, really push for that, which is really awesome. Yeah.
Now you took home a Best Choreography award for Cabaret.
Yeah.
Right? And then a couple years later, you won again for Chicago.
Won this past January for Chicago.
You were working everywhere, you were running all over the place, and then suddenly you moved to London.
Yeah.
So you're actually sitting in London right now. A lot of people may not know that. You're actually like in jolly old London.
I'm in Bermondsey.
Bermondsey. So tell us a little bit about that. I remember you telling me you were going to go. You were here. And you were very gutted about. You were so
nervous,
panicked and nervous and freaked out. How did that come to pass that you ended up moving to London?
So my husband Brett, he works for a company called Moody's Investors, and he had come out for a work trip, and he was sort of here just to sort of help with some stuff that was going on with the company here. And the head person here was like, hey, listen, we need your help. And if you want to move here, let's try to make it happen. And he thought, Brett went away and thought about it without me. And then he came back and talked to me about it and said, what do you think? And so we decided to do it. And Brett moved here with, 6 or 5 or 6 suitcases, and we just living the dream.
What has that been like for you, trying to balance like kind of a flourishing career here, but being there?
It's, it's like any job, you gotta commit to the rat race, as far as like with work, I try to be productive and not really showcase, not my goal is to not really work here at the moment. I want to continue my progression back in the States because, I've been at it for a little while, directing and choreographing. So that's where my focus is. So I think it's like with anything, wherever you put your energy, that's where it's going to go. So, while I'm here, I'm always trying to connect with, theaters back in the States, sending them emails, stuff like that, sending out my reel, and just making sure that I continue the rapport and the relationships with directors like yourself, or, artistic directors like yourself, and Neil at Winnipesaukee and Seco Strap and stuff like that. So, that's sort of how I maintained it.
What's it like being quarantined there through this COVID-19 thing? And you must be worried about, obviously, family and friends here. What's it like actually being in another country during this whole?
It's so bizarre. We were on, Brett and I, my husband and I were on vacation right before all of this happened. We were in Mexico. And literally we got back and you guys the country basically had shut down the next day. And then London shut down about like 4 days later.
Right.
At first it was like interesting. Like I was like, oh, I'm just grateful because Brett and I are not together all the time. So I'm like really grateful for the opportunity to spend this time with him. And then it gets to a point where you're like, well, okay, now all of my work is gone for the rest of the year because I was booked until next January. And now what, you know? So, you know, it's been really hard because I'm watching the United States go through sort of a movement, and they're sort of shedding their skin at the moment to make way for new skin, which is a good thing and it should be a positive thing. But it's hard, you know, that, you know, I can't, not that we would be able to be in a situation right now where we'd be able to hang out or whatever because of what's going on, but just to like know that my mom's okay, or that my sister's okay, or that you're okay, or my niece is okay. That's important, you know, and it's hard not being able to like, at least like be in a car and wave, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really hard. And besides that, I'm missing out on my niece, Olivia Grace. I'm missing out on some really important stuff, and it's, you know, it's hard. It really is hard.
What's it like watching the recent turmoil here from there? You know, I mean, I don't know what your news cycles are like, or if you're seeing, you know, what we're seeing over here kind of every 5 minutes there's something, you know.
Well, we like basically, like, you have to remember too that Britain is going through their own situation right now with trying to leave the European Union. So they have their own thing going on, but it's been, you know, heartbreaking to see what's going on back in the United States. And, you know, we're getting all the same news, but we're 5 hours ahead of you. So, you know, when it's, you know, 5 o'clock here, it's noon your time. So, and most of the stuff doesn't happen until like 5 o'clock, you know? So
I know.
Or the cycle that's coming through news-wise. So it's been hard, you know? And then I'm also a person who doesn't look at the phone first thing in the morning. I try to stay very clear away from social media and the news. And I don't look at it until after my run and after I've meditated, because it just will mess with my head, you know? It's incredible to see, because we're a little bit older, you know, it's incredible to see the youth right now be at the forefront of this. It's very, very inspiring. But not only that, it's educating the entire world. You know what I mean? I mean, it's pretty incredible what's happening right now. You know?
Yeah, it is.
In a sad way and a very positive way.
I agree. It's a combo. It's all the feels right now. It's everything.
All the feels.
Talk to me about Chorus Line in quarantine.
Totally
Viral. Went wild.
Totally went viral. Was on like Good Morning America and all that stuff. Chorus Line, the gift that keeps on giving. So I think it was Jeffrey Schechter put together. We have a private Facebook group of the revival, and he sent out a message and he was like, I just want to like put together this video. And so we all, I mean, there were like probably like 30 of us that sent in videos from all over the world.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Still dancing like you're 19. Rude. You still got it. You still got it, Henny.
Got it.
So that was really cool, and I think that's done. You still see it everywhere, which I think was really fun.
It was really cool, and it sort of helped propel like everyone else starting to do it too. Like we were like one of the first ones to do it, so it's been cool to see like that Hairspray one. That was beautiful. You know,
really
and
really
it's a great way to connect too. You know, I think it's also pushed other companies to sort of have reunions. You can see them on Facebook all the time. You know, a lot of people are having like Zoom reunions, which is cool.
You have a lot of work coming up, but you're just going to be spending the summer teaching. Tell us about your teaching stuff, and maybe we can start with Christy Whitehead, because I think she's
Yeah.
She's been amazing online. So like, let's plug
Yeah.
Chrissy Whitehead a little bit because her stuff is so fun.
Chrissy Whitehead.
She's just the best.
She just got this incredible roster of people, all Broadway people and film and TV people, you know, people with multiple Broadway credits. It's an amazing program. She co-founded this with Alexis Cara. So they're running this, this program online through Broadway Arts Community. And the class that I'm teaching for them is like a directing class. So we're going to do like a little bit of directing, but adding some choreography into there as well.
Okay.
So that they can get the experience of, you know, being a director choreographer. They have wonderful, wonderful lessons for kids, but they're also doing a mentorship program. That's incredible. I mean, the kids really work super hard, and it's incredible what they're doing because they're all doing it through the computer.
You're also teaching at a couple other places too. What else?
Yeah, I'm teaching for Winnipesaukee education department, Winnipesaukee Playhouse. I'm doing a Fosse masterclass, sort of giving a rundown of sort of Bob Fosse's legacy and his work and stuff like that, and then sort of adding my own take to Fosse, considering I've done 2 shows with them that were both Fosse. So I start that the end of July.
And then another teaching gig
And
too?
then I have one more with Seco Strap.
Okay, good.
Papa, Portsmouth Academy of Performing Arts, sort of recreated their programming for the summer, and they're doing a intensive for kids who are getting ready for college and who really want to do this professionally. And giving them the tools to sort of navigate that. So I am teaching a directing master class for them. And I'm actually taking something you taught me from it and giving it off to them. I remember one of my first shows I did at Mac-Haydn, directing wise, you told me to break it down for all of the designers and give influence and inspiration as to where you're coming from, where you want to head with ideas, so that everyone's on the same page. So I'm gonna give that back to the kids and give them a little directing.
One of my favorite things that you do is you dance in your kitchen.
Feeling quite alright. No rush, take your time. We can take it slow. Ready, set, and go.
You just love to dance.
I just love it. I just, you know, it's free. It's so freeing, you know what I mean? And it's challenging, especially as I get a little bit older. Like, you know, I can't do some of the things that I used to be able to do, but I try.
Who are you quarantining with?
Gretzky's.
Your husband. Great.
My husband.
What are you eating?
Cookies.
You're a cookie. You're definitely a cookie.
All
kid.
the cookies.
You love a cookie.
They're called digestives, and it sounds disgusting, the word. But it's like a graham cracker with chocolate. We put it in the freezer. It's everything. Dark chocolate.
What have you been wearing?
Well, I go running in the morning, and usually what I'll do is I'll put on my running shorts and my tank top, and I'm in that basically the rest of the day, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good.
Every once in a while, I'll put on like a shirt and shorts. Today I dressed up.
You look nice.
Thanks.
I don't think I've had
It's Brett's the worst though. He sits here and he'll be in like a nice shirt and like maybe sometimes a tie, but down below it's like his underwear or shorts with his slippers.
Through all of this, what's been the one thing you miss the most?
Creating theater.
Yeah. I think that seems to be the kind of consensus with all of us. We're all
our lifeline is pulled from us, you know. It's hard.
Bryan, what advice can you give right now, if you had to your fans, the Mac, and to your friends back here and everywhere else, if you had like just a little bit of wisdom for everybody, something that you'd like people to think or feel? Or
I think right now everyone should take the opportunity to be really grateful for the things that we do have, rather than the things we don't have. It's very easy to go to the negative and not and not see all the great, wonderful things that are happening.
Yeah.
And that we're all, you know, even though we're all in different boats, we're still on the same water.
And there you have it, my interview with Bryan Knowlton. Big thank you, Bryan, for sitting down to chat with me. That was so much fun, and I miss you like crazy. Don't forget to mention Bryan's name when you donate to the Bright Future Fund so he can send that money off to the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. And please, if you can, hit that button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay hopeful.